A boy's bold words left an entire courtroom speechless. "You're my mom. What happened next will break your heart." In the hushed courtroom of Wichita, Kansas, where even the faint rustle of paper seemed to echo against the solemn walls, the tension was palpable. This was the setting of a dramatic custody hearing presided over by Judge Anna Montgomery, a seasoned jurist known for her strict adherence to the law and unwavering fairness. At 58, she had seen a plethora of cases, yet nothing could have prepared her for the emotional upheaval about to unfold. In the center of this charged atmosphere was 10-year-old Samuel Thompson, a small boy whose legs swung slightly from the high chair, unable to reach the floor. With every swing, his nervousness was palpable, his wide eyes scanning the room, evading the intense stares of the opposing attorneys. Despite appearing as just another case number, Samuel's presence seemed to command the room, drawing a silent empathy from all who observed him. As Judge Montgomery adjusted her glasses and prepared to address the room, the legal jargon continued to fill the air. Terms like stability and best interest were bandied about, echoing off the courtroom walls. But the usual proceedings were abruptly interrupted when Samuel stood up, his voice trembling yet audible, cutting through the murmurs of the courtroom. "Excuse me," he started hesitantly, gaining everyone's full attention. "I need to say something." Judge Montgomery, taken aback but maintaining composure, leaned forward slightly. "Samuel, this isn't the time." But Samuel, with a boldness that belied his years, interjected firmly, "You're my mom." The declaration reverberated through the courtroom like a thunderclap, silencing the murmurs and casting a stunned silence over the spectators. Every gaze turned sharply towards Judge Montgomery, whose usual stoic demeanor faltered for a split second as the weight of Samuel's words sank in. For a moment, time seemed to pause. The courtroom suspended in a tableau of shock and bewilderment. The attorneys stopped their bickering, exchanging looks of disbelief. The court reporter's hands hovered motionless over her keyboard, and even the stern-faced bailiff raised an eyebrow. Judge Montgomery quickly regained her composure, her voice steady yet tinged with an undercurrent of personal conflict, as she responded. "Samuel, please sit down. This is not the place for personal declarations," she stated, her authority resonating in the now silent room. However, Samuel stood resolute, his small frame filled with a determination that seemed to anchor him in place. "I know you're my mom," he repeated, louder this time, his conviction filling the room. Murmurs and whispers erupted among the spectators, with hushed questions and incredulous comments weaving through the air. "Is it true? Can he be serious?" Speculation filled the room as Judge Montgomery hammered her gavel, demanding order. But the echoes of Samuel's declaration hung heavy, altering the course of the hearing and, indeed, the very lives of those within the courtroom. As the legal proceedings stumbled forward, the dynamic had irrevocably changed, with every participant, from spectator to official, now intensely focused on the unfolding drama between the young boy and the judge. Judge Montgomery strove to focus on the legal aspects of the case, yet her thoughts were in turmoil. Despite the thousands of cases over her long career, this moment was unlike any other. Her heart pounded, her professional facade challenged by the emotional gravity of Samuel's claim. His eyes, so piercing and familiar, seemed to draw her in, making it increasingly difficult to maintain her judicial impartiality. As the hearing continued, the emotional resonance of Samuel's bold assertion lingered, casting a long shadow over the proceedings and leaving an indelible mark on all present. The proceedings of the Wichita courtroom marched on, yet the poised Judge Anna Montgomery found her usual clarity clouded by an unexpected turmoil. As the attorneys before her debated an issue regarding the admissibility of evidence, her customary prompt decisiveness gave way to an uncharacteristic hesitation. Her mind churned with questions. Was the boy's startling declaration merely a ploy, or did it carry a kernel of truth that she had failed to perceive? From her bench, Judge Montgomery stole glances at Samuel, who now sat silently, his intense gaze occasionally meeting hers. The shiver that ran down her spine wasn't due to a cold draft, but the penetrating quality of his stare. It was not the look of a child merely seeking to be noticed. It resonated on a deeper, more enigmatic level, tugging at a corner of her mind that she had sealed off long ago. As the hearing slogged onward, The atmosphere within the courtroom felt electric, charged with an invisible current. Samuel's words, "You're my mom," lingered like a looming storm cloud, casting a shadow over the proceedings. Despite Judge Montgomery's efforts to steer the courtroom with her usual firm hand, she found herself ensnared by the creeping vines of her past, which she thought she had left far behind. Her hands, usually steady and commanding upon the polished wooden bench, now betrayed a slight tremble, visible only to her. Throughout her career, she had faced unruly defendants, combative attorneys, and heart-wrenching family disputes. Yet, never had she felt as profoundly disoriented as she did now, in the wake of Samuel's unexpected proclamation. The words echoed endlessly in her head, unraveling the tightly wound threads of her composed exterior. "You're my mom." The assertion was ludicrous, wasn't it? However, the conviction with which Samuel had spoken it, clear without a trace of doubt, was disconcertingly pure. It wasn't the desperate claim of a child clinging to any conceivable connection. It was stated as fact, unsettling in its simplicity. As the attorneys continued their heated exchanges, their words faded into a blur against the backdrop of her introspection. Her focus was continually drawn back to Samuel, the determined set of his jaw, the defiant tilt of his chin, all strikingly familiar. Then there were his eyes, deep brown with hints of amber that shimmered under the courtroom lights. Eyes she was sure she had seen before, but not in this context, not in this courtroom. A memory surged forward, uninvited and unwelcome. She was transported back to her days as a 20-year-old college sophomore in Durham, North Carolina. Back then, she was Evelyn Daniels, balancing night classes with a part-time job at a local diner. Her life a tapestry of dreams, yet to be woven into clarity. Then came the mistake. The boy she loved but could not rely on. The harsh whispers of disappointment from her family. The agonizing weeks grappling with an impossible decision. She was so young then, the world so dauntingly harsh. A sharp voice snapped her from her reverie. "Your Honor, may we have your ruling on the objection?" The lead attorney's voice, tinged with a hint of impatience, barely registered to her. Judge Montgomery blinked, masking her momentary disorientation, and cleared her throat. "The objection is sustained," she declared, her voice more stable than she felt. "Please proceed." Yet, even as the legal proceedings moved forward, her thoughts remained ensnared in the echoes of the past. Could it be possible? Could Samuel truly be? No, she reassured herself. The adoption had been closed, the records sealed to protect all parties involved. She had signed the papers, walked away, and vowed never to look back, to ensure that the child she had given up would have the chance at a life she could not provide at that time. Still, Samuel's presence haunted her. She found herself stealing glances at him, noticing his small, vulnerable frame that belied an underlying strength, a reminder of someone she had not considered in years, herself. It was a bizarre, almost ludicrous notion, yet it persisted stubbornly in her mind. The hearing droned on, but her focus wavered, the boy's earlier declaration replaying like a broken record. She questioned whether this was fate, coincidence, or some cruel jest of the universe, but she could not dismiss the nagging suspicion that she was teetering on the brink of something transformative. As the attorneys called for a recess, Judge Montgomery retreated to the solitude of her chambers, a sanctuary where she hoped to find a sliver of clarity amid the storm that had unexpectedly erupted in her courtroom. She paced the small book-lined chamber, her heels clicking sharply against the tiled floor. Her own reflection gazed back at her from the glass pane of a framed certificate on the wall. Her meticulously crafted life, her impeccable reputation, it all seemed precariously fragile now, as if a single utterance from Samuel could cause it to shatter. Thoughts of the boy, sitting out there in the courtroom, awaiting her decision, weighed heavily on her mind. Why would he make such a statement? How could he possibly know of any connection? She had no clear answers, only a suffocating sense that the past she had struggled so hard to bury was resurfacing, insistent and unyielding. The courtroom awaited her return. The case at hand was still unresolved, but as Judge Montgomery stared at the door that would lead her back to the bench, she recognized that this was no ordinary case. It had become intensely personal, and there was no way to detach herself now. Samuel sat quietly in the corner of the courtroom, his small hands gripping the edges of his chair as if he feared the world might suddenly tilt and throw him off. Although the initial murmurs of shock had subsided, a palpable tension lingered in the air. His declaration had transformed the atmosphere, and even he could sense it. Despite the upheaval, he harbored no regrets about his disclosure. It was something he felt compelled to do. Samuel's life had been anything but stable. Shuffled between foster homes from the age of 4, he had been passed from one household to another, like a book that never quite fit in any library. Some placements were kind but fleeting, others were harsh, places where the rules were stark and simple. Be quiet, remain invisible, don't ask questions. Yet, through it all, Samuel clung to a faint glimmer of hope that somewhere out there was someone searching for him, a place where he truly belonged. The name Evelyn Montgomery first came to him whispered during a late-night argument at a foster home, not meant for his ears. A social worker mentioned it in a heated exchange with his foster mother discussing his ongoing case. There's a name that keeps coming up, Evelyn Montgomery. Samuel had seized upon the name, rolling it around in his mind like a hidden mantra. He didn't know who she was exactly, but the way the social worker had spoken the name suggested it was significant, perhaps even linked to him. In the following weeks, Samuel began to quietly investigate, piecing together snippets of overheard conversations and glimpses of documents he wasn't meant to see. He discovered that Judge Evelyn Montgomery had signed some crucial documents related to his adoption years ago. That revelation was all he needed. Samuel was astute, more perceptive than most adults realized. He might not have understood all the intricacies of the legal system, but he recognized that this connection was no mere coincidence. For years he had wondered why he had no family, why he seemed unwanted. Now he had a name, a possible link to his unanswered questions. He needed to know if the judge, the woman with the commanding presence and searching eyes presiding over his case, could be the missing piece of his puzzle. His current foster home with the Daniels was more comfortable than most. They were kind, though they maintained a certain distance, perhaps wary of forming attachments. Samuel appreciated Mrs. Daniels' warm laughter and Mr. Daniels' quiet strength, but it didn't feel complete. They were considering adopting him, yet a part of him hesitated. What if they weren't his true family? What if his real family was still out there, waiting for him to find them? As he walked into the courtroom that day, Samuel hadn't intended to speak out. He knew the hearing was supposed to decide his future, whether he would stay with the Daniels or move on. But upon seeing Judge Montgomery, something within him stirred. Her face seemed familiar in a way he couldn't quite explain, as if he were looking at an old photograph he had forgotten but once treasured. He felt a compelling force within, an undeniable pull. And then, without premeditation, the words just spilled out. "You're my mom." The immediate aftermath was a mixture of gasps and whispers, the judge's shocked expression echoing the sentiment of everyone present. But for Samuel, the chaos around him was secondary. His focus was solely on Judge Montgomery. He needed her to acknowledge him, to affirm that his feelings weren't baseless. Sitting back in the courtroom now, Samuel wondered if he had overstepped, misjudged the moment. Judge Montgomery's face was inscrutable, giving nothing away. He couldn't be sure if she believed him or cared about his declaration. Yet, deep down, Samuel felt a profound certainty. This wasn't just the impulsive outburst of a desperate child. It was a truth he felt deep in his marrow. She was linked to him, perhaps in ways no one else could understand. Samuel glanced at the Daniels, who sat nearby with expressions that mixed confusion and concern. He had grown to care for them in his own way, but this revelation was larger than any individual relationship. It was about answering the haunting questions that had followed him throughout his young life. Why had he been relinquished? Who had made such a decision? And why did this woman, the judge with the composed demeanor and discerning gaze, seem to possess the keys to his past? Samuel wrestled with these questions, the courtroom around him muted in a thick, palpable silence, yet his own heart thundered with a relentless beat, signaling that there was no turning back. He had thrust open a door, and whatever truth lay beyond was now imminent. The courtroom was hushed, disturbed only by the soft shuffle of papers and the gentle hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Judge Montgomery remained seated at her bench, her face a mask of neutrality, but beneath that facade her thoughts were tumultuous waves crashing against the breakwater of her composure. Samuel's declaration had struck her with the force of a sudden wind, jostling the memories she had meticulously compartmentalized over the years. She leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly before her. "Mr. Carlson," she addressed the boy's guardian, her voice betraying a hint of urgency. "I will need to speak with the attorneys in my chambers briefly. Let's recess for 15 minutes. The bailiff acknowledged with a nod, and as the room began to empty, Judge Montgomery's gaze fixed on Samuel. He met her look steadily, his expression devoid of bitterness or despair, displaying instead a quiet resolve that both unsettled and moved her profoundly. Once secluded in her chambers with the attorneys, the air thick with anticipation, Judge Montgomery closed the door with a definitive click. She faced the lead counsel for the foster agency, her tone both demanding and controlled. "Ms. Johnson," she initiated, "I need to verify something crucial. Is there any record, sealed or otherwise, that ties this child to me, to my past?" Ms. Johnson appeared taken aback, her eyes flickering towards her colleague before responding. "Your Honor, I'm not aware of any such connection, but I will certainly look into it." "Do so," Montgomery directed with firmness, masking the tightening sensation in her chest. "I also require access to any adoption records pertaining to Samuel Thompson. I'm aware sealed records need proper authorization. However, given these extraordinary circumstances," her voice wavered momentarily, "it is imperative." The attorneys exchanged a look of uneasy consent. "We'll expedite the request," Ms. Johnson assured her. Returning to the courtroom, Judge Montgomery resumed her position with her characteristic professionalism intact, but the questions swirling inside her demanded urgent answers. That evening, alone in her office, surrounded by the dim light of her desk lamp, Judge Montgomery awaited the delivery of the adoption files she had personally requested. With a tremulous hand, she opened the folder, her eyes quickly scanning the aged documents. And there it was, her name, unmistakably penned as the biological mother of Samuel Thompson. A breath seemed to escape the room as she read and reread the line, her heart pounding as if trying to break free from the past's long shadow. Memories of the difficult decisions, the silent nights filled with guilt, and the painful resolution to give her son a chance at a better life surged forward. Her mind spun with the magnitude of the revelation. Yet the truth was undeniable. Samuel's assertion was not a mistake. He was indeed her son. The next day, Judge Montgomery entered the courtroom with a newfound determination, her resolve steeled by the revelations of the night before. She was uncertain of the path ahead, but one thing was clear. Samuel deserved to know the truth. As the session commenced, she cleared her throat, her voice now imbued with an uncharacteristic softness. "Before we continue, I must address a matter that has come to light." The courtroom fell silent, every attendee hanging on her words. She turned toward Samuel, her expression softening. "Samuel, yesterday you made a statement. I need to understand. Why do you believe I am your mother?" Samuel straightened, his youthful face marked by earnest anticipation. "I found papers," he said quietly, "with your name on them. And when I saw you, it just felt right." Judge Montgomery's heart clenched at his words, but she managed a nod, her voice gentle yet steady. "Samuel," she began, her voice faltering slightly with the weight of her next words, "what you've said is true." A ripple of astonishment swept through the courtroom as Samuel's eyes brimmed with tears. "You mean, you really are my mom?" "Yes," she replied softly, her own eyes moistening. "I am." For a fleeting moment, the world outside seemed to disappear, leaving only Judge Montgomery and Samuel in a bubble of raw emotion. Samuel's face contorted with the weight of his feelings, tears cascading down his cheeks. Across from him, Judge Montgomery felt a familiar sting in her own eyes, her composure wavering as she struggled to contain her emotions. "I never expected this," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "But you should know. I thought of you every single day." Samuel, small and shaking, took a tentative step forward as Judge Montgomery rose from her bench. Ignoring the astonished stares of those in the courtroom, she descended from the judge's platform and moved towards him. After a brief moment of hesitation, Samuel ran into her open arms. Around them, the courtroom buzzed with whispers, but the noise faded into irrelevance for the two reunited. In their embrace, the years of separation, the ache of unanswered questions, and the longing dissolved into nothingness. It was not a fairy tale conclusion. There were still legal complexities to navigate, truths to be explored, and challenges to overcome. But this was a start. The truth was now out in the open, and their hug conveyed to everyone present that the essence of law extends beyond mere rules and regulations. It embodies justice and the bravery needed to face the past, aiming for a hopeful future. This courtroom had never seen a moment like this. Judge Evelyn Montgomery, the epitome of judicial dignity, holding the boy who had inadvertently redirected her life's path. This reunion was not just about a mother and son finding each other. It marked the end of prolonged silence, filled with regrets and questions that had remained unspoken. In the ensuing days, the legal ramifications of their relationship came to the forefront. Evelyn stepped down from overseeing Samuel's case, ensuring it would be handled by another judge, impartial and seasoned. Yet she did not distance herself from Samuel. She engaged with his social workers, met with his foster parents, and started to reclaim the years they had missed together. For Samuel, the newfound knowledge of his origins didn't overshadow the thrill of finally understanding his roots. The answers he had long sought brought with them a sense of identity and a feeling of belonging he had never known before. Their path forward was not without obstacles, both legal and emotional. Yet they faced these challenges united, fortified by the truth and a shared commitment to heal and move forward together. This narrative isn't merely about an unexpected turn of events in a courtroom. It highlights the transformative power of truth to mend even the deepest divides. It's a testament to forgiveness, both of others and of oneself. It's about the resilience and the profound ability of humans to overcome their past and foster a brighter future. Life's journey is unpredictable, and the choices we make can resonate for years. But as Evelyn and Samuel discovered, it's never too late to address those echoes and transform them into a new beginning. If this story touched you, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more touching stories that celebrate the enduring power of familial bonds and love. In 2025, the story of Judge Montgomery and Samuel resonates deeply, highlighting timeless truths about human connections in an era dominated by digital interactions and fast-paced change. This narrative serves as a poignant reminder that behind the veneer of professional titles and societal roles, the core human experiences of love, regret, and redemption remain unchanged. It urges us to look beyond our immediate perceptions and consider the lasting impact of our decisions on others, especially when it comes to the complexities of family dynamics and the legal system. This story teaches us that truth and reconciliation can lead to profound healing, and that embracing these difficult truths can pave the way for a more compassionate future. It also underscores the importance of justice that not only adheres to the letter of the law, but also embraces its spirit, fostering connections that can redefine lives. As we navigate the challenges and advancements of 2025, let this story inspire us to maintain our humanity in all aspects of life, advocating for a legal and social environment where every individual has the opportunity to find their roots and a sense of belonging. As we follow the heartwarming journey of Judge Montgomery and Samuel, their story unfolds to reveal deep themes of connection, truth, and healing. Now we turn to you, our audience, to take part in shaping the next chapter of their lives. Join us in supporting these characters as they navigate the complex path of reconciliation and familial bonding. How can Samuel integrate into a new life with his mother while honoring his past? What steps should Judge Montgomery take to mend the years lost and build a future with her son? Share your thoughts and supportive messages in the comments below. Your insights might just influence their paths forward in our story. What do you think should be Samuel's next step? Should he explore his new family ties, or perhaps focus on his personal growth and education? Maybe Judge Montgomery could establish a foundation to help others in similar situations. Let us know how you envision their journey continuing, and what challenges and triumphs you foresee for them. Your engagement and suggestions are invaluable. By participating, you help breathe life into their story, guiding their actions and decisions. Together, let's rally around Judge Montgomery and Samuel, offering them the community support and wisdom they need to thrive. Comment, share, and be a part of their unfolding story.